Across the country, the priority of the centre right now is to ensure that the availability of oxygen is done expeditiously. With that in mind, the Prime Minister has chaired a number of meetings in the recent past, the latest of which was held today, and a plan has been chalked out to ensure that 10,000 additional oxygen beds are made available at COVID care facilities. How is that going to be done? Let's get more details from Megha Prasad. Yes, Megha.
Well, Padmaja, the Prime Minister today actually has chaired multiple meetings, one after the other today. All through the day, he'd been engaged from early morning in several meetings. Now, 2-3 important things that have come out, Padmaja, that we need to understand. The focus, of course, of these meetings seems to be oxygen, the supply of oxygen, how to boost it, because we're still struggling. You know, after days of trying really hard, we are still actually struggling, trying to ensure that oxygen reaches these critical areas of the hospitals, etc., on time. And in many cases, the government's failing. The state and the centre, of course, have been failing. So 2-3 things that have happened today, Padmaja. One is that, the government has identified a lot of plants that use gaseous oxygen in the gas form. And the problem, Padmaja, is that, those in the gas form, the oxygen cannot really be transported. You transport liquid oxygen. So what the government has decided in the meetings today with the Prime Minister is to now set up these big COVID centres and hospitals, these makeshift hospitals close to these plants. I think over 30 such plants have been identified where these hospitals can be set up. Hospitals that would be close to the dense population area, close to the urban centers, not in the far-flung areas. So these are the plants which are very close to cities, etc., where you will have hospitals coming up in, and they will have big capacity. So the oxygen, the gaseous oxygen, can actually be transported from the plant wherever it is. So the distance between the makeshift hospital and the plant will be very less, and the transportation will be possible, so that you'll have uninterrupted oxygen supply. That's one. Number two, we've also been told that there was a separate meeting that was held today to identify nitrogen plants in the country. So there are lots of nitrogen plants that will now be converted to making only oxygen. They will no longer be producing nitrogen. They will be turned into plants that will be producing oxygen. And I think about 40 odd, I'm not very sure of the numbers, but around that figure, they have already identified. There are 17-18 industries that make nitrogen, where these government has already spoken to these industries, and the plants have been identified, where we are being told that they will now be converted into plants that will try and churn out oxygen as much as possible. Padmaja, we need to understand one thing. The logistical problem here is this, that India has been trying really hard, but we've still not been able to tide over it. It's the problem of tankers. It's not about the production of oxygen. We have enough oxygen in this country, but they are all in their different plants. And the problem is that we do not have enough number of cryogenic tankers that can transport these oxygen from the plants to the hospitals, which is actually a logistical problem. India has been picking up. We've seen videos and pictures of Indian Air Force carriers going to different countries, Singapore, Saudi Arabia, Germany, etc., picking up these empty cryogenic tankers. But then you haven't been able to boost the numbers of tankers as per the requirement. The requirement is so high right now that it's been so difficult to provide the logistics to transport these oxygen. That is where the problem is. And the problem also, Padmaja, is that you can airlift these tankers that are empty. You cannot airlift tankers and cylinders that have been filled with liquid oxygen. That is not safe for the air carriers. So how do you do it? You can lift these tankers, take them to the empty tankers, take them to the plants. But from the plants, they will have to take the road. There is no other way out. These tankers will have to, then by road come to the hospitals, which is taking 4 to 5 days minimum for them to reach the hospitals. Also, Padmaja, one last point we need to add here is that the maximum oxygen producing plants that we have is in the eastern part of the country, in Orissa, in Chhattisgarh, that part of the country. And the requirement right now, the demand right now is more in Delhi, the northern part and western part, which is where we do not have so much in capacity in terms of the production that happens. So again, transportation is where we are lacking, and that is what the Prime Minister today has tried to tide over with more and more novel ideas.